Over the course of 3 years and beyond, Dragon Ball fans were once again invited to follow Goku on a new path, this time towards what many people would call enlightenment, or specifically God transformations and divine power. If you're not sure what this refers to, we're talking about Dragon Ball Super, which aired from July 2015 to March 2018, at least in its anime adaptation. It offered fans a chance to relive the excitement of Dragon Ball Z, only in a shinier, more modern package. But with repeated viewings, it becomes more apparent something felt different, or more accurately, someone felt different. Goku. The Goku we knew in Dragon Ball Z was essentially a fully developed character. He had grown from a naive, kind-hearted kid into a powerful warrior with a defined sense of morality and justice. His story, in many ways, had concluded, yet with Super, the writers attempted to give him new arcs by stripping away the lessons he'd already learned, effectively hitting a reset button on his personality. This led to what many view as character regression, masked as development. One of the most noticeable shifts is how Goku was portrayed, more self-serving and less heroic. In Z, Goku was someone who chose to do good because it was right, even if he had selfish motives at the time, like wanting a good fight. In Super, however, his actions often feel accidental in their morality, as if he helps people not because he cares, but because it's a byproduct of his pursuit of strength. This version of Goku seems far more reckless and oblivious, a stark contrast to his thoughtful and composed hero he had become. Take the notion that power isn't everything, a lesson Goku clearly internalized in Z. Multiple arcs emphasize the importance of key control, strategy, and inner calm qualities Goku mastered over time. Yet, Dragon Ball Super reintroduces Goku as someone who seems to constantly relearn these basics, as if he forgot the very essence of his prior growth. Even the justification that God Key training made him reset mentally doesn't hold up. From Roshi to Piccolo to Vegeta, the franchise repeatedly hammered home that brute force alone wasn't the answer. So why does Goku now act like it is? This pattern continues in his supposed rediscovery of a sense of justice, especially during the moral arc. The story tries to frame Goku's moral decisions as a result of his bond with Maris, as if this is where he learned justice and compassion. But Goku had already had these traits since he was a child. Even as a kid, he saved Launch because it was the right thing to do. And in Z, his decision to spare Frieza, despite being fully capable of ending him, was based on hope that Frieza would change.
As if it's ever gonna happen.
Then there's the issue of Saiyan pride. In Super, Goku was portrayed as someone who must learn about it again, through Bardock this time, in a way that ignores how thoroughly he already understood it in Z. He had already accepted his heritage and claimed that he was a Saiyan, and proudly embraced the Super Saiyan transformation. Vegeta even called him a true Saiyan, suggesting that he borrowed that pride from Vegeta based on the line, "Now I want you to give some of that pride to me," misunderstands the moment. Pride isn't something that can be lent. If it were, Goku would have mimicked Vegeta's arrogance, but he never did. His pride was his own. Even more confusing is the identity crisis he goes through in the Granola arc. Goku struggles with his self-belief and connection to Ultra Instinct, as if he's lost faith in himself. But Goku has always been able to center himself in battle, even going back to the Namek Saga or during the calm, relaxed control he displayed with Master Super Saiyan. The idea that he lacks fighting spirit in Super contradicts everything we know, and shifting his motivation from wanting to improve to wanting to win undermines what made him different from Vegeta in the first place. Goku was always about the journey, not the outcome. To suggest that being more Saiyan means abandoning that for the sake of winning feels like a distortion. His identity as both Earthling and Saiyan is what made his path unique. Rewriting that in favor for vague justifications like it's in a Saiyan's nature misses the point entirely. With all that being said, as many fans have already pointed out things that I've mentioned, the bigger question remains, why did Goku change? Why did his personality shift so dramatically from Dragon Ball Z to Dragon Ball Super? The answer isn't just one-sided. There are two explanations, one out of universe and in universe, that actually complement each other in a poetic, if frustrating way. For the out-of-universe answer, let's start with the obvious. The Goku of Dragon Ball Z was created by Akira Toriyama, who had a clear endpoint in mind. By the time the Cell Saga wrapped up, Goku was essentially a completed character. He had developed from a naive martial artist into a protector of Earth, a father, a mentor, and someone who had made peace with his dual identity as both a Saiyan and an Earthling. Toriyama had effectively finished his story, but then came Dragon Ball Super. While Toriyama oversaw the general story direction, the writing was now in the hands of different creatives, such as Toyotaro in the manga and Toei's writers in the anime. Toei had always been composers of the anime, but back then in Dragon Ball Z, all they really did was adapt Toriyama's original manga, with adding little fillers here and there, but they already had a basis to go off of for Goku's character. But in Dragon Ball Super, they pretty much took control. So even though the DNA of Dragon Ball was still there, the soul of the character, especially Goku, was now being filtered through different interpretations. And here's where it gets tricky. If you're rebooting or reviving a series, especially one built around a hero's journey, you need that character to grow again, but you can't grow a character who already reached his destination. So what do you do? You regress him. You scale him back emotionally, morally, and mentally, just enough that you can tell new stories where he can learn things again. It's a classic move in the long-running franchises, especially one that tries to appeal to a newer audience. Goku is simplified and more naive, and often more selfish, not out of laziness, but as a necessity, from a production standpoint. But that doesn't mean it always works, and fans who grew up with the deeper, more reflective Goku of the Z era can feel that. But here's the twist. The seeds of Super Goku were kind of already planted in the Buu Saga, and this is where the in-universe explanation becomes really interesting. Goku during the Buu Saga does start showing shades of the more reckless, fight-hungry version we see in Super. It's not a one-to-one shift, but there's definitely a noticeable contrast between Buu Saga Goku and the more mature, selfless Goku from the Cell Saga. Think about it. He agrees to fight Vegeta even though it knows that it would give Babidi the energy needed to awaken Majin Buu, and that's not a small misstep. That's Goku knowingly putting the universe at risk just for the thrill of a good match. He has Super Saiyan 3 and yet chooses to not end the threat himself. He could have stopped Buu and Babidi cold, but instead he walks away, leaving the fate of the planet in the hands of children, Goten and Trunks, who aren't even fused yet, or lack the proper discipline to even reach forms higher than Super Saiyan. And yeah, while the reasoning is pass the torch to the next generation, the problem is they weren't ready, and Goku knew that. But he did it anyway, resulting in the literal death of everyone on Earth. He does eventually step in to help defeat Buu, but only after his hands-off approach fails. This version of Goku is already beginning to treat fighting like it's a game again, more interested in the challenge than the consequences. He still has a moral compass, sure, but it's blurred by his obsession with combat. It's the same moral slippage we see amplified in Super, like when he risks all 12 universes in the Tournament of Power for a good sparring match. Of course, Goku doing this ends up saving the universe inadvertently, but he didn't know this at first. So the in-universe explanation isn't that Goku randomly changed in Super, it's more like Super just amplified traits that were already growing in him during the later parts of Z. His increase for love and fighting and decreasing awareness of consequences became defining traits. So then the next question becomes, well, why did Goku make this change from the Cell Saga to the Buu Saga? Well, maybe that time that he spent in Otherworld, those 7 years being dead with no concept of time or reality, really distorted his mind. But all jokes aside, I think it becomes the most evident in the Moro arc. It's in this arc that he actually mirrors Gohan from the Cell games, funny enough. In the Cell Saga, Gohan is one who lets his power and his pride get the better of him. He's told explicitly by Goku and even by Cell that if he doesn't finish the fight, people will die. And still, he delays, lets his rage inflate his ego and allows things to spiral out of control, ultimately leading to Goku's sacrifice. And it was here that Goku learned a harsh lesson. Power doesn't mean anything if you don't act responsibly. And by the end of that saga, he'd eternalized it. He even tells Gohan he should be Earth's protector now, because he recognizes that he himself is too dangerous, which is why he chooses to stay dead. Now, if we fast forward to the Moro arc, Goku has god-level powers, Moro is weakened and outmatched, and Goku has all the tools he needs to end the fight cleanly, swiftly, and save the universe. But what does he do? Just like Gohan with Cell, Goku delays the kill. He gives Moro a senzu bean, hoping he'll change, and it's not because he's merciful in the same way he has with Frieza, where he warned him not to come back. No, here it feels almost naive, like he's treating Moro as some kind of sparring partner who just needs a little push in the right direction. He legit asked Moro if he wants to train and get stronger rather than just, go to jail. It's like Goku forgets everything he learned in Z about mercy, consequences, and evil. Instead, channels that same recklessness we saw in Gohan back then, and the result is a disaster. Just like Cell blew himself up and killed Goku, Moro betrays Goku's kindness and fuses with the planet, and becomes dangerously close to destroying the entire universe. It's only because of Whis and Miras's intervention, and later on Oob's divine energy out of nowhere, that the Earth and the galaxy aren't erased. Goku's selfish desire to test Moro to try to mold him like a student instead of stopping a literal galactic devourer nearly causes everything to be undone. And what makes this so poignant and painful is that Goku is no longer a teenager like Gohan. He's a grown man, a father, a seasoned warrior. He's fought galactic tyrants, androids, and literal gods of destruction. Yet, despite all of that, he still makes the same exact mistake Gohan made as a child. You could argue Goku's mistake here is even worse because he should have known better. This is the same guy who spared Frieza and had to end up killing him anyway in the future timeline, allowed Majin Buu to live and hoped kids would take care of it, and saw the entire Earth wiped out. And after all that, he still gives Moro a senzu bean and pretty much asks him if he wants to be chill. Many people who attempt to defend this action will point to Piccolo and Vegeta. The same way that they were battle-crazed, hungry killing machines and Goku spared them to become good later, you can give the same excuse to Moro, except that you can't. With Vegeta and Piccolo, there was something that was driving both of them to do this. With Piccolo, it's a bit more complicated, especially when talking about Demon King Piccolo versus Ma Jr., but in the case of Demon King Piccolo, he was quite literally the evils of the Earth absorbed, and Goku was able to purify this. The reason Piccolo was evil, though, was because of the people on the planet. Then when he came across someone like Goku, he seen that everyone wasn't the same way, and it changed his perspective. With Vegeta, naturally as a Saiyan, he was very barbaric and raised to conquer, dominate, and kill. But again, like with Piccolo, once you see that that's not all that you have to do, and you go through your journey as a person, you start to evolve and become less primitive. Comparing them to Moro is a completely different story. Moro is a planet-eating demon, and pretty much only serves to kill and destroy. From what we understand, not because he was told to, or he was programmed to, or even influenced to, simply because he is evil. Even Frieza has a better case to be evil than Moro does. Moro is pretty much just evil. The Ultra Instinct moment in the Moro arc is often held up at the peak of Goku's maturity. The calmness, the grace, the divine aura, it's supposed to be a sign of a more enlightened Goku. But the second Moro was down, that enlightenment evaporates. Goku rips his shirt, drops into his base form, and suddenly he's back to the naive, fighting, loving man-child from early Super. It's almost symbolic. Ultra Instinct isn't real growth for Goku, it's just a transformation. It's a technique, not a skill. But it doesn't mean Goku himself has matured, not spiritually or emotionally. In fact, it shows that Goku is learning how to master godhood before he's mastered himself. And here's the heart of the issue. Goku and Z had power, but he understood its purpose. Goku and Super, especially during the Moro arc, treats power like a toy. It's all about the next fight, the next thrill, the next challenge. He's not evil, he's not bad, but he's irresponsible. And that's worse when you're the strongest being in the universe. So yeah, while this arc could be considered a masterpiece in the grand scheme of Super and by Super standards, it's also a mirror. It reflects everything wrong with Goku's betrayal in Super, and the fact that it calls back to Gohan's greatest mistake in Z only makes it more obvious just how far Goku regressed. He's no longer the man who made peace with his dual identity. He's no longer the father who believed in his son. He's no longer the warrior who knew when mercy was appropriate and when it was deadly. He's just a guy chasing strength, again at the cost of everything and everyone. But what do you guys think? I'd be interested to know what you guys have to say in the comment section down below. Leave a like on the video if you haven't yet, and until next time, Majin Birds.